You want a sweet, sexy dessert that's different? I'll give you 3 words: bananas Foster cheesecake. Hang with us, we're going to go through it step by step and you're going to be amazed at how easy this recipe is. Thank you for joining us on the Anodized Chef. We are going to get right into it. There's 3 sexy steps to this, nice and simple. Basically, we're going to make a regular cheesecake. We're going to use our own recipe, make a nice house cheesecake, and then what we're going to do is we're going to top it with a homemade caramelized bananas Foster. So we're going to start with the base of the cheesecake. So we've got a 10-inch springform pan. We like 10-inch because it's bigger and you're going to get more yield out of it. So a lot of our cheesecakes call for a 9-inch. We're going to go with a 10-inch one because that's what we have here on site, and we also like the fact that it's a bigger cheesecake. So what we want to do first is we want to take some pan spray and just give this guy a nice little grease, and especially around the sides. The bottom not so much, because we're going to put a nice buttery graham cracker bottom on there. But we want to just get in there and just kind of get it so the cheesecake will come off a little bit easier after it's all done. So we've got the pan prepped and ready to go, primed. You can also, if you don't like to use the aerosols, you can also rub the pan with some butter, and that works out just as good, if not more delicious. So let's get right into the crumb. We've got some crushed graham crackers. Now you can get your own graham crackers at the store and just pulse them through a food processor, or leave them in a bag, put them in a plastic bag and just pound them down with a mallet. A little crumbly is okay. It's more of a preference thing. I like mine to be kind of powdery because it's a little bit more consistent in the bottom of the pan. So what we want to do now is we're going to measure out 2 cups of graham cracker crumbs. And the critical thing here, the important thing about baking to know, is that baking is a science. It's basically a set of chemical reactions. So you know me, I'm a hack when it comes to recipes and such. Like I just wiped my dirty hand on my shirt. But baking, you can't really mess around with baking. It's critical that you follow every measuring step perfectly. Bob, you got the shot here with the camera. This cup here, that's a heaping cup. What we want to do now is we're just going to take it and we're going to slide our finger right across it, and that is a measured cup right there. So that's what you want to do in all your recipes anytime. And you can also take a flat knife. You can take another spoon that you're using, the flat handled side, and just scrape it right across, and that's a measured cup. It's very important that you understand that, because even a little bit off will change the impact of the whole thing. So you don't want to mess with a good thing. So now we're going to go ahead and get our second cup, because it's 2 cups of graham cracker crumbs, and I am making a complete mess of everything here. Alright, so let's go call in some reinforcements here. There we go. And we're going to measure again, do the same thing, slide right across, nice measured cup. Boom. Alright, so we'll get that in there, and we can get our graham crackers out of here now that I made a mess. And I've got 1 stick of melted butter. You can go with softened or you can go with melted. I prefer melted because it helps to mix it up a little bit easier, but the softened butter will give it a little bit more of a stick, which is fine. Either way, you're going to bake this off ahead anyway, so it's perfectly fine. Then I've got some cinnamon here, and we're just going to add, here I am, I'm being a hack already. We're going to add a teaspoon. What I have here is, I have a ½ teaspoon set up. But what we're going to do is we're going to get right in there, and what you can do with the spoon is slide it right across the top, and boom, there you go. That's a half, and then that makes 1. See, that's what it looks like. Boom, right in there. The chime was accidental. It sounded like it was meant to be there, but it was accidental. Okay, so now, and the last ingredient that we're going to go in here is we're going to put a little bit of lemon zest in here. And what I do is I've got a planer here. Let's talk a little bit about this tool here. You can use a lemon zester, you can use what's called a planer, and I personally love this gadget, and I'm a firm believer in that you get what you pay for. So when you shop for these, you can buy a real cheap one, but you're probably not going to last very long with it. Or you can buy a little bit of a commercial one. But also remember too, sometimes with price, you get you're paying for the name. So just keep that in mind too. You can get a pretty decent quality one at some of your department stores and stuff. Just feel it for integrity, and if it seems like it's solid, it's great. But the good thing about these is it adds lemon zest without having to really do any more chopping afterwards. So instead of using a zester where you're going to get little strips of lemon, this almost gives you like a lemon powder almost. And this one here, we're just adding this for accent, so we're not going to add too much. I think what I added there was probably about, I would say about 1/8 of a teaspoon, a pinch. And really we just kind of want to, like I said, bring out a little bit of accent in this. And then we're going to get in there down and dirty with our hands and just start mixing it right up. And just before we go any further, I almost forgot, I wanted to add the 1/3 cup of granulated sugar, and that was pre-measured out, but again, follow those techniques and those measurements. But now we want to mix up everything we got here. Oh yeah. And you can substitute for brown sugar. Some people like brown sugar, but I think the granulated works for me. I think it's more of a preference in this scenario, but a lot of people think with cinnamon and graham, the brown sugar is the way to go. But again, it's just a preference. And these measures will fit the 10-inch pan just right. That's where it's really kind of critical. It's important to make sure all your measurements are accurate because you want to fill the right size pan and not have stuff left over. So now I'm going to dump it right into our greased springform pan, and that's what this is called, by the way, a springform pan. It's the pan where they have the side attachment where at the end of it all, when it's all cooked, you can unlatch it and the whole bottom will pop right out. It's a pretty cool pan, but it's really designed for those types of desserts and torts that need to be you need to carve around the outside and separate it slowly so that way it's a delicate, more of a delicate pastry type thing. So we've got our crust in here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pat down the crust all the way around so it's uniform. While I'm doing this, I'll talk about the preheated oven. I've got the preheated oven right now set at 450 degrees. And what we want to do is we just want to bake this crust for probably about 10 minutes. It's going to dry out a little and it's going to change a little bit of color. It's going to start to get a little bit of brown. And that's all you need. And the reason why we do this really is so it helps to hold it together. And it'll be a good nest, a good bed for our cheesecake spread, which we'll work on next. So I'm going to pop this in the oven and we'll do a little cleanup and we'll get right into the filling. So we've got that sexy crust baking off, and what we want to get into now is we're going to make our filling. So I've got a food processor set up here. It's kind of an old one, it needs some love, but that's fine. I've got 24 ounces, or 3 little containers from the supermarket of cream cheese, and I've got them softened. It's important that they're soft too because you want them to split apart easily and blend well with all of the other ingredients that we're adding to this. So it's kind of a good idea to let it sit out at room temp for probably about 20 minutes or so before you start this. Then we're going to add, let's see, I've got 2/3 of a cup of sugar. And I'm going to add eggs. I'm going to put them in this bowl here. I'm going to do 1, just put our yolks aside. 2, and we don't have to mix them in this, but the reason why I'm doing this, and I probably say it a million times, is I like to put my eggs in a separate bowl because I can see if there's any shells before they go to actual recipe. And that's critical. We want to make sure we don't have any shells in there. And then the last 2 eggs, so it's a total of 5 eggs. We're going to put 3 whole eggs in, and the last one we're going to put in, and I'm going to steal this bowl here, is we're going to take the yolks out. We're going to cut the egg in, we're going to crack the egg in half, split the egg, and then we're just going to rock the whites out back and forth by rolling that yolk into each half shell. So then, now you can try to do it with your fingers. It's a lot. I think this is the easiest way to do it though. So we're going to add that 1 yolk in there. So we've got a total of 5 eggs, but only 3 whites. And I've got 1 more to do here. So let's split this up here. Let that white just fall right into the other dish. Catch the yolk. Just rock that yolk back and forth. Oops. There we go. So there we go. Now we did it nice. We're going to go ahead and put this right in there. I don't see any shells at all. Usually I see shells, but that's perfect. So I've got the eggs. I've got some vanilla. We're just going to add, I'm going to say probably about a half a teaspoon. I don't want to go with a full teaspoon because I don't want it to taste like artificial vanilla. I want it to taste nice and fresh. So then I've got an eighth of a teaspoon or dash. And it's okay to pinch. There we go. Pinch. 1/8 of a teaspoon is a pinch. And I've got the last 2 ingredients. I've got the, we're going to go back with the lemon again on the planer. You do the same thing. We're just looking for a little lemon accent. So probably about a pinch of that as well. And yes, I know, before everybody starts calling, I know that there's a big difference between a dash and a pinch. That's fine. So now we're going to go ahead and, like I said, I just got a little bit of lemon in there, probably about about 1/8 of a teaspoon there as well. And the last ingredient, but what we're gonna do first is let's pulse this in the processor and get all these guys to mosh. Oh yeah, look at how velvety silky that is. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add about 3 tablespoons. While this is going, I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of heavy cream right to the mix. And yes, that was hacky, chef, at it again. So now we're gonna go ahead and pull this off and set it right here for now. And we're gonna go ahead and pull our crust out of the oven. Oh yeah, look at that, it's perfect. It's perfect. So now we're just gonna let this cool for a few minutes. Let this come down a little. We don't wanna add our filling right to that just yet because it's still really hot. So we're gonna let it cool for about 10 minutes, then we're gonna add our filling, throw it back in the oven. It'll be awesome. Check this out. So now that the crust is out, we let it cool for 10 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and add that filling that we blended up in the food processor, and we're just gonna pour it right in and let it spread itself out. The cool thing about the ratio that we put in here of the volume of ingredients is when we bake it, it's going to actually rise right up to the top of the pan. Now, after you're done and it's cooling down, it will settle down some, but it'd be awesome to see how high this thing gets. All right, now I've got the oven preheated at 400 degrees. What we're gonna do is we're gonna pop it in the oven. We're gonna let it cook for about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. You wanna see how it gets nice and golden brown on top. You don't wanna let it get too dark. Then we're gonna drop the temp down to 300 and let it go for another 20 minutes or so. I know that doesn't sound like a very long time, but I think my thought process is all the eggs that we put in there turn this thing into almost like a custard, so it's not gonna take as long to cook. But we're gonna start it out at 400, like I said. We're gonna cook it for about 10 to 15. You wanna check it, and when it gets nice and golden brown, when it looks like this, then you wanna take it and you go ahead and finish it off at a lower temp. Drop the oven down to 300, and then we'll take it out and let it go for 15, 20 minutes more, and we'll take it out. And I'll show you what that looks like too. The music you hear in the background is by the Veneti Fair. The song is called Because You're Lonely, and it's off their full-length album, The Circus. Now, you can see these guys live. They're touring right now. Check out the tour dates. You can find all that information on their Facebook fan page at facebook.com/The Venetia Fair. Or you can also check out they were on our show last season at the Restaurant Takeover, the final episode of season 1. Learn a lot of inside stuff about these guys. We had a blast shooting out with them, and they're really just a wild bunch of guys. I highly recommend checking them out. And they're touring right now in March, so I definitely see if they're playing in your area, and I would definitely say to go check them out live. It's really a good show. Now let's go check on that cheesecake. So the last step we're going to do now is we're going to make the Bananas Foster topping to go on top. We're going to make basically what Bananas Foster is it's a ripe banana. We've got some nice ripe bananas, and these are pretty much overripe. These are like ones that you wouldn't they would take down at the supermarket and wouldn't want to have them. They're just on the outside of ripe, they're on the other side. So and that's the perfect banana for that because they're extra sweet too, which is going to make it even nicer. We've got some rum. We've got some butter, and we've got some brown sugar. What we're going to do is we're going to saute them and turn it into a homemade caramel when it's all said and done. So it's going to be phenomenal. Then we're going to put this right on top of the cheesecake and let that caramel fall right down into those nice little nooks and crannies that developed while it was cooling. And it's just going to make for a really nice topping on a cheesecake. We'll show you how to serve it when we're all done. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to peel back a couple bananas. First, I want to take about 1.5 tablespoons, I would say, what this is cut into. And we're just going to let that melt down. I've already got the pan preheating, so we've got to be careful because we don't want that butter to brown up too much. We're going to turn this into a rock show before long. Hopefully it's more of a rock show than the last time I tried to flame on top of the wall. Alright, so I'm just cutting up these bananas, and be very careful. If you want to cut these up ahead, I would recommend going like this on the cutting board. Just cut them up ahead of time. And then put them very, very carefully into the butter because that butter is really hot, and again, it can splash up and burn you. I think I've said that probably 100 times since we started shooting. Be careful with the hot pans. By the way, little brown spots on bananas, no problem. Let's not be fussy. Because what are we going to make? We're going to make lots of brown. Caramelize everything right down. So there we go. Now we're going to add all these bananas right in there. Oh yeah. And I think 2 is probably looking like it's going to be enough. Get the butter coating all those bananas. Now, let's add some sugar. I'm going to add brown sugar. This is where brown sugar is important for phosphorus. So we're going to add, let's see, I've got 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, 3 teaspoons, 4 teaspoons. Let's say about a tablespoon and a half of brown sugar, okay? Get that coated up nice. Let that start melting down a little bit. Get those bananas in there. Oh yeah. Then, we'll add some cinnamon. About a half a teaspoon. Now, this is where it gets exciting. Gotta be very, very careful. You know what? It doesn't look like there's enough butter in there. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit more butter. Another half of one of those cubes. So let's say about 2.5 teaspoons of butter total on that. Tablespoons, I'm sorry. All right, so we get the sugar starting to caramelize down. Now, party. Be very careful. We're going to take this away from the flame, as I've said a million times over. And I'm not letting you down this time. We're going to add about a cup and boom! That's what I'm talking about. We're going to let that cook down. Wow, I'm getting a tan. Woo! We're going to let that cook right down. And basically what's going to happen is as that rum reduces, it's going to melt that sugar down. And it's going to make a phenomenal caramel. Again, be very careful with rum. I know I kid and I joke around with any kind of concentrated alcohol. The higher the alcohol content, the more it's going to flame up like this. So be very, very careful, please. All right, now let's grab one of my little sidekick spoons that I used earlier. And let's just get in there. And you can see the bubbles, and Bob, I'll show you right in there. See how it's really starting to reduce down and get kind of thick? This is the time when we want to take this away, because it's only going to get thicker from here. So this is the time when we want to start spooning it right on the cheesecake. Oh, because the cool cheesecake now is also going to help to solidify that caramel, the homemade caramel. And let's just spread that all around. Those soft bananas, they fall right under the spoon, they just melted right into it. Let's spread it around. Oh yeah. And this is going to have to cool one more time, just because we have the a lot of heavy hot stuff in there. Now none of this is going to waste. None of it. There we go. Oh, what? All right, now we're going to let this cool one more time. When we come back from that, we'll cut it, we'll serve it, and we'll talk about the wine. So now we're going to finish this up. We're going to go ahead and plate it. Now you can probably get with this size, this will probably feed up to 10. You could probably get anywhere from 8 to 10. You might even be able to get 12 if you cut them small enough. But what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and carve out our slice now. And oh, look at that. Look at that. Are you kidding me? I feel like a rock star right now. This came out way better than I thought it was going to. All right, now what I've got is I've got a little bit of homemade caramel that I made up. And I'm going to go ahead and just drizzle it on the plate. Oh, look at that sexuality. I'm going to bring it over here. Take our slice. Put it right on the plate just like that. Then we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of whipped cream to it. Just for sexiness. And there you have it. That is a bananas foster cheesecake made by the Anodized chef. Bob had a great wine pairing with this. We actually picked a Vin de Glacière. It's a ice wine. It's a Riesling that's more like a dessert wine. It's made from frozen grapes, so it makes it a lot sweeter. And it's fantastic. It's very very dense, and it's got a little bit of like a I don't want to say syrup because that's kind of a negative word, but it's got a real sweet, bold flavor. The good thing is the caramel that we made, I kept it a little bit less sweet, so when you actually taste that caramel, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's more of a savory, and so that way there, when we paired it with the really sweet wine, it brought out, it's actually not overly sweet, but the sweetness comes through when you try it with the caramel, and it's really great. So That being said, I want to say thank you very much for joining us in our madness, our magic, and our mayhem. We'll see you next time.
Baby, you're only doing this because you're lonely. You don't deserve me. She came to his home after cut communications all alone. The only soul is hard to wreck the celebration. She said, I couldn't care less about the way he kiss. Just take me where you can.